Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to start off with Adolphus, Washington now, and see what we can find here in the Sugar Bowl game.
And what number is he again? 92?
92. So he's on the left side here. And you just let
And
me.
just one last thing about your point, and about Deion Jordan. I was a big fan of Deion Jordan, and when he was drafted by the Miami Dolphins to play a 4-3 defensive end, I just knew that that wasn't going to be a very good situation for him. I knew
Yeah.
that that's not his strength, and I still believe that a motivated, properly utilized, and in the right hands, in the right scheme, Deion Jordan is a great asset to a defense. He's not his strengths weren't necessarily. I didn't see a guy who was an elite pass rusher. I never did, and I
No.
rated him. I rated him really highly because he was he was an amazing Swiss Army knife who could play almost any single position on the defense decently and some positions really well. And if you have that kind of uh, versatile talent on a defensive out there on your defense, you can work with that in some really creative ways, and that's what was really exciting to me about him. And I really loved the way he was able to cover guys as a
Yeah.
6'6", 200 and whatever 60-pound guy. He was really good at coverage. He was really good at a lot of things.
Yeah, that's true. And those were great points. And I forgot kind of skipping over that because he's kind of more of a, I mean, I would say he had a more promising look than maybe a Julian Peterson back in the day, because Julian Peterson was kind of known as that
Yeah,
hopefully that type of guy.
it's
So
a
that's a
great
good
comp.
point.
And that's a
Yes.
great comp. Julian Peterson elements to him. Maybe a poor man's Julian Peterson.
And you got to remember, and that's the other demoralizing thing is why on earth would a 4-3 team pick him? In that regard, if they're going to use him as an end. So it's it's an sometimes people go, well, it's just amazing. It's such a there's such a schizophrenic view that fans and media that we have of the NFL, because it's sometimes people go, well, it's the NFL, they know what they're doing, and I trust what come on now, these guys, they pick people all the time. And then there's other times you go, what on earth were they even thinking? Like, how did they arrive at this conclusion? And I think that that's why it's a call to be balanced about what you're looking at. So we got the Sugar Bowl in 30 minutes thanks to YouTube. Man. So we're gonna check out Mr. Washington here and see against some of the same players.
And already, he looks a little thicker to me.
Yes.
But is that just a white jersey? Well, who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm seeing a little bit heavier type of build, even though they're supposed to be similar, same height, same weight.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, even on this one play, and I know it's silly, but let's see if this is going to be the case. He looks a little more fluid. he, um, Thicker in the legs, unless it is like the gray, but he looks a little thicker in the thighs and the trunk.
And I see what you mean by fluid, but I would also say probably a little less explosive.
Yes. So we get a little bit. We do get some push on this next play here. If I can, the only difficult point about this sometimes is rewinding with 30 minutes worth of tape. But
Yeah, yeah. You have to be a little surgeon.
yeah, but he gets his hands in there, and he looks like he picks the outside at one point. Yeah, he's definitely a thicker dude. Now we got him on the right side.
Trying to anchor in there,
Yeah,
getting low. He's getting sort of skated a yard maybe. No, no, no biggie.
yeah.
It looked like he was quasi double teamed.
Let's see if I can skip ahead here to.
Yeah, now we got Ohio State on offense.
Yeah. All right, so let's see if we can.
Okay, here he is at the left, top left. Oh man, his extension, it's pretty effective. At least it was on. I think that's
Yeah, here he
Cujo.
is.
Ari, is
Juancho?
that's that? Yeah, Quanjo.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Extend, and then he gets him off, cleared him. I don't know if that was bad effort by 72, but
Yeah, one more time.
it
Low, pushes up, extension. Yeah. It's good.
benched him. So we're seeing, functional strength at least.
Yeah.
Some good heavy hands.
Here we go on the right side here. Nope, that's Bosa actually. Let's see if we can find our man. Is he even on the field right now? I don't think he is.
Yeah. And this is a third and 5. He comes out. Let's see. Let's look at the next third and long and see if he's in on that too.
Yeah.
He might be a 2-down D tackle here.
All right, so now we got the kickoff, and we'll give it a shot here. All right, let's see. If this is our man, he would be right here.
That's him. That's him.
Yep.
I don't like the way he read that.
Okay, why?
He's doing the same thing that it's just so common. Same problem. Following blockers and not having a little bit of like that one eye on the backfield.
Yeah.
That's what Leonard Williams did, which I forgot we did watch Leonard Williams. We did watch a D tackle. But Leonard Williams. Oh man. Leonard Williams, he would have been going towards that ball. He probably wouldn't have gotten anywhere near the tackle, but he would have saw where that ball was going and been running in that direction.
So it's late. It's Friday. Have you ever seen the movie Bull Durham?
Yes.
You know the dude who's like the religious dude who marries the woman who's like going to bed with like all the guys on the team. It kind of
Susan Sarandon.
This is like it's like a bit part where it's like they have a wedding in the middle of it where one of the players who's like a really like straight-laced kind of guy, and he ends up together with the woman who's like bedded like every guy in the on the team. This guy Land Clark kind of looks like that dude to me. I don't know why. Just random. So
God, it's been so long since I saw that.
Yeah, it shows up on cable every once in a while, and occasionally as I'm like flipping through, I'll see that movie. It's a good movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Pushed back.
Yeah. And they are able to they're going to town on him right now.
That's weird. They passed the ball and it was run blocking.
Yeah. Which we're seeing a little bit more often with certain schemes where you kind of get the run blocking looks with the pass. Especially when it's quick plays like this.
That's illegal man downfield, though.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, that's true. Well, how many yards downfield do you need to? Well, right here, but you don't have any contact. But if it's like 2 to 3 yards, is that the legal man downfield, or is it more than 5?
That's a good question. I thought they had to be behind the line of scrimmage.
Maybe that's
until
what
the
it is.
ball was released.
Okay. Well, then that might be it.
Or at least right around the line of scrimmage. They obviously only want to call it when it's more egregious,
Yeah.
which that was. But
Yeah.
okay, back to our man. See, this guy's carrying that weight a lot bigger. He's got a bigger frame.
Ooh. He split the double team on that particular
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Playing half of a man during the double team, get skinny, as they call it when you turn sideways. That's getting skinny.
And I mean, you see the potential there that he's thinking or reacting well. Maybe he
So he
could
says, "I'm
react
going
a
to
little
do it."
faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So picks a side there too.
Said, "I'm going to go the long way."
Yeah. All right. Once again, now we got him at the right hash.
And this is what they call elephants on parade,
Yeah.
which is the boot action. And he couldn't feel that these guys were just basically running laterally down the side, down the line of scrimmage, and he runs with them. And that's why they do this. This is simply like playing on coaching, that these defensive players are coached to read these offensive linemen and step where they step and try and like maintain gap integrity as the line flows laterally. It's a bad strategy for defensive linemen most of the time. A lot of times, just shoot vertical and then make your moves where you want to go laterally. Don't go too far up the field, especially if it's moving, but get up the field and then move laterally. And hopefully you have that kind of quickness. And even if you don't, you're still probably going to be better off to making a play than if you follow those elephants on parade and not recognize it.
And I think that you bring up a point that is central to all positions, which is knowing the balance of when to play inside and outside the structure of a play. And I think that's you've got to be able to figure out when to do that and when not to.
Yeah. And so that was a read option, keep, and he passed it.
Yeah.
And
Let's see
he
if
didn't do anything. He didn't do. No, you don't have to go back to it.
Okay.
It was neutral.
Yeah, I'm not seeing much going on there. Let's get further up. We got halftime. All right, now we're in the third quarter. And Ohio State has the ball. Let's see if we can.
Something big happened. Still got the ball.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah. Good. All right, they're backed up. This is big. In a big game, in a big situation, on the 1 yard line, opportunities for safety. Let's see what he could do here.
Yeah.
Let's see what he could do. Heavy formation. He's high against the double team. They're bending him backwards. He's strong. He's got a decent anchor. That double team wasn't just riding him out, but they were gaining some ground. But it wasn't embarrassing.
Yeah, it wasn't like Incondice before.
Yeah, I would say he's a little bit better of an anchor.
But it's more of awareness of technique too. Well, no, it's the size. It's probably the size and girth there. Here's some heavy hands to start with, but
yeah, yeah, good shedding there. He shed, but it was a little too late.
oops, wrong play. All right, we'll wait for that. Yeah, the momentum of that contact took him a little too far inside. I know that this isn't like bad effort, but there's a part of me that just looks at this and going,
He gave up.
yeah. Like, I just got
Like,
that feeling he gave up.
Yeah, yeah. He's like, that's not for me. Let me just jog.
Yeah. Like right here looks
Because
like
if you walk, you're basically going to get chastised the next day on film. If you give up that, if you do that, I'm not looking. It's just basic mental that.
yeah. Because when I see this, I see him get upright here, and I'm thinking this is the point where I'm waiting for him to drive, and there was really no driving there, and maybe he only comes within a step of Henry, but it's like, what happens if Henry stumbles? What happens? I mean, that's why you want to give that full effort.
Always.
What if he drops the ball?
And it's a rare thing to find somebody who has that crazy motor that just doesn't stop.
Yeah, that's why you got to know and love J.J. Watt in that sense too.
Yep, exactly.
Here we go.
I would have liked to not have him be on his back.
Yeah.
On that tackle. I would like him just sort of take that guy backwards.
Even if 53 is kind of behind him, pushing Henry into him, that would be my only possible argument against that.
Part of that is because he waited a little bit for that tackle anyways.
True, he wasn't the first man there. It's like, let me just stay on this side and let him come to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, we're nitpicking it.
Yeah.
And that was decent. He didn't get blocked. He didn't even make a step to have that kind of free reign at the running back. It alone his assignment. He was there. And so since that was a given play for him, the next step is, okay, do something amazing with it. And he did the typical thing, which not bad, just not great.
Yeah. All right, here we go. At the end of the third quarter. Looks like we're going to have a big run from Derrick Henry coming up fairly soon after this nice special teams play. I like that he kept his hands. That wasn't bad.
We've got more of a – no, yeah, you're right. And we've got more of a passing situation. Alabama's down 21-34 into the third quarter. So it's now a game that we get to see emphasized right now. Can he get to the quarterback?
Yeah.
Is he a guy on likely to be passing?
Yeah. And I like the use of his hands here to kind of swat away, redirect.
Was that him that actually got close to the quarterback?
It was right here. He swats away the arms, takes a side, gets inside his man, and there he is.
Decent closing speed on that. That was the best example that I've seen.
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree.
And like you said, good use of the hands. double teamed. They're dancing. They're just both. That was a energy saving play.
Yeah. Here's the screen. Turns out to be a big gain. We're going to see some hustle. Yep, we do.
Let's
in
see
the screen.
Yeah, there he goes.
Yeah. Maybe not great. It was good hustle early, and then when he didn't see that he was going to be able to catch up, he was just jogging. And our man isn't in this particular.
He's like, I need a rest.
Yep, after he jogged past after Henry downfield, he needed a breather. Let's see if he's in this play. And he's not even in this play either. He needed a couple of plays at least. And I believe Yeldon comes. No, he doesn't score on this one. There's one I think he gets close to here. And is our man in? I didn't see him on that play either.
I saw it. It could have been him. I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
that's not him, is it?
No.
Is that him?
No, he hasn't been in the entire series since they got inside the 10. And they run right where he would. Oh, there he is, actually. That might be him. Hold on.
That looks like it could be him.
On the ground. Let's see if this is. If it is, this is him right here. Let's see. It is. That's him. He gets shoved to a side. Tries to spin back, and he does. He doesn't even get it. He can't even get his hands on him. He had an opportunity to, but wasn't able to do it. Yeah, I can't say. I mean, stamina-wise, are you going to ding a guy after he's given chase to a running back on a screen pass, but then has to be out for like the next, 4 to 5 plays, especially in a red area with the game close?
Yeah, I'm going to ding him.
Yeah, I am too. I'm kind of like. I keep thinking of Dick Vermeil saying to Kevin Carter in the Titans Rams Super Bowl, "You're out of this game right now."
Yeah.
You need a breather now,
right? Exactly.
But then I think of Kevin Carter going, "Were you chasing around Steve McNair?" Have you ever tried hitting that guy 10 times in a game? Let's see.
Dude, 92 just ran way out of the play. Look at him at the top corner of the.
Yeah.
He's trying to go the easy way.
Yeah, which is a sign of fatigue, too, or can be, at least a sign of mental fatigue on a level. Because if you're like always picking the easy way, but it's like makes no sense to go that way.
Even if that's a game, like that's a horribly played game.
Yeah.
A stunt or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I can't say that either of these guys are like have had impressive games, even though again we're talking about Alabama, but still, even for that, we're just not seeing. We're seeing one guy who has really great physical talent but doesn't know how to use it. Another guy who knows how to use his skills a little bit better, but I'm not sure if the effort's consistent enough.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I don't think he's very quick. He's not going to be a guy who is going to be in the backfield a lot as a D tackle. He's a better anchor than the first one.
Yes.
He's slower, a little bigger. Not necessarily, he doesn't have the explosiveness or even that amazing power, but he's got that slow power. So he'll move the guy back, but it's like a slower push. Whereas the other guy's more of an explosive, like jolt. The other guy will jolt you. He'll slowly move you back.
Yeah. And you can tell that he has a feel for what's going on around him. But I do believe that he's making choices sometimes that are more like a wide receiver who's doesn't really want to block, but doesn't want to get in trouble for not blocking. Like I see that same kind of tendency with him at times when it comes to I'm tired, but I don't want to be taken off the field because I might never get back on at Ohio State if I want off the field in the Sugar Bowl. So let me take some plays off here and kind of hide that a bit. But then you see this play, the screenplay, he gets knocked forward, led inside, he realizes it's a screen, even gets his hands up, even though his back's to the quarterback.
Yeah.
So you see, he's
I
smart.
like the way you said that. Yeah.
He's smart. He's just not, he's just sometimes he's, I don't want to say slick, but he's kind of, I guess that's all the best way I can put it. He's being kind of slick when it comes to like, look, I want to keep my job. I may not be great at it, but
this is very common what you're describing. It's more common than not.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of finding those guys who do that extra and go that extra effort, go that next mile. And he's not a penetrator. He's not a penetrating defensive tackle.
No.
He's not even a high effort defensive tackle. So you now have to ask yourself, do you want high effort, quickness, and a lack of awareness? Or do you want a little bit slower, better anchor, better awareness, and lower average effort?
Well, that's a great question because it's like on the one hand, you could look at the average effort guy and say, well, at least I know he's going to be where I need him to be most of the time. And other players can help me out. But I'm thinking, well, then I'm just picking a guy that I'm going to replace the first chance that I get. Where on that end, you could say, well, that might be the most efficient thing because if you know that this guy's just a rental for you, then you don't have any preconceived notions. And if he starts to get it in some way, you're probably thinking, well, he's still not athletic enough for me to really like that. So I can see the kind of, I can see that kind of thought process where you go, well, if we need him, we can put him in here. But if not, he'll hang around a year maybe with our team until we find somebody else better to replace him. So I can kind of dig that understanding if that's really how you're looking at it and being pragmatic. But the emotional side of me goes, why not? I'd rather take a chance on the athletic talent who might develop into something who actually is much better than what we're seeing on the field right here.
And then you have to ask yourself, what does your team need, or where are you trying to get better at on your defense? Are you looking for more speed up front? Are you looking for that, surrounding yourself with 11 guys of giving high effort? Do you need a 3 technique or a 1 technique? Because if you need a 1 technique, you're probably going to want to lean towards what's his name?
Adolphus.
Adolphus Washington.
Yes.
But if you want a 3 technique, it looks like the how do you say him?
Nikum Diche, I think.
Nikum Diche. That's probably your best bet for the 3 technique at this point, because there's not a lot of separation between the two of them, although they have their different strengths and weaknesses. As looking at them as a prospect as a whole, it's sort of a tight race.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Not a lot of separation.
No.
Then it becomes what's your flavor and your preference, you know?
Yeah. And it's just, I just don't see, like, when I look at Adolphus Washington, I don't see a future with him. I see the near present and maybe if I had to, like, oh, I guess so. You know, whereas with Nikum Diche, I see, yeah, possibly, you know, and neither of those are fun evaluations. Neither of these are like, you know, we left this and going, wow, this was great, but it's still instructive. You know, I'm not running out to go, oh my gosh, you've got to see these two players, you know, but I really did leave this thinking. I love the questions you asked, which is, you know, who would you pick and why, and what do you have to think about and consider when evaluating players of this type. And you know,
I'm gonna say, like, what you got with Washington in terms of a very reasonable ceiling is you get God, who's his name? Michael Brockers for the Rams. You get that kind of a high ceiling. He's because I watched him a lot when he was at LSU, and there's a lot of similarities between these two guys. I'd say Brockers is probably a little bit better an athlete, but effort is very similar. It's a hit and miss, sort of average effort kind of thing. You got plays where you're like, okay, bare minimum. You don't have a penetrator. You don't have a guy who's completely lost. You don't have a guy who's closing in on that ball, constantly finding his way to the ball routinely. But at the same time, he's navigating his way there, playing his role in a very typical way, but he has the physical skills to achieve it. And he's not dominant either. But at the same time, you know, the NFL seemed to be higher on Brockers than I ever was. So that could easily happen here. But just for me personally, I'm seeing the similar thing to what you're saying in terms of his future. And I'm giving him a ceiling sort of Brockers.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much you want to invest with that.
Yeah, and I get that. And it's like, this is the other thing that happens with the NFL, and it's a discussion that I would say that is very akin to something that I had with my wife this evening at dinner, which was, you know, we were talking about corporate America and about how businesses sometimes can succeed in spite of themselves, and they can have a bit of arrogance about them when they have that success because maybe they don't have a lot of competition. You know, maybe they, you know, they're, you know, and the NFL definitely fits that, as there are times where they succeed in spite of themselves. And if you're able to throw money around in certain ways that you wouldn't have to be cost conscious, because, you know, if there was an AFL again, you know, and it was the NFL versus the AFL, maybe the NFL would have to be more cost conscious and better at picking their players and get guys that are really going to have a bigger impact early on and be putting more forethought into it. But if the equivalent of picking a guy like, you know, like you said, Brockers or Washington in this case, is kind of like a company going, well, you know, we've got the money to spend, so let's never give anybody anything worse than a medium-sized compact car whenever we rent out cars on trips, and let's plan trips to for business meetings that we could accomplish over the phone, but we'll send people on these trips, every month that rings up thousands or millions of dollars for them in expenses because we can. I almost get that same sense of feeling of how teams would pick players, and with that same kind of like almost underlying arrogance that we don't have to be that conscious about it all.
And I would say a lot of what that is the NFL is madly in love. Talent evaluators within the NFL, coaches and whatnot, they're madly in love with the things that they can see in that stuff. Physical athleticism, strength, power, heavy-handedness, these types of things. It takes up such a large amount of the focus and priority of what they're looking for. And that's why, like, I could see the NFL valuing both of these prospects probably more than you and I are going to tape.
Yeah.
And we've only watched one game. Maybe there's some other game out there doing some much. We watched Alabama. So if we're watching guys who are just holding their own and doing decent and not getting embarrassed against Alabama's front, there's something to be said about that onto itself. But we didn't see any dominating. And you brought up Quantaris Smith as a guy who did dominate against guys who are thriving in the NFL right now. Fluker's been a very good addition for the Chargers, and Smith tore him up. But, he's not in the NFL right now because his knee never got healthy. He's got damage, and he couldn't even pass the physical, so the Broncos had to let him go. So sometimes, that happens, and a guy who has talent that I was so excited about just doesn't make it because of injury. And I gave him the lowest injury grade I could, but you just can't project those things.
But that's the point. You identified a good player who was a small school player who played extremely well against big name NFL players now, and we didn't see anything remotely that would be on the same plane as what Smith was able to do, from guys who, from these guys here. And I guess to me, it's just like, if this is what we're going to see, from them consistently, and we don't know yet, but if it were that way, no, I wouldn't want to pick either of them. I mean, I know that may be bold. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, everyone else is going to want them, but I think the point is if you agree with us that the NFL isn't as choosy as they need to be about things, or that it's very easy to grade on tangible qualities, and the most tangible qualities are our physical skill, and they haven't figured out how to define or refine their evaluation processes to look at things in a consistent way to show effort, to show conceptual savvy, to show when a guy is hiding his, just trying to stay on the field because he knows he's going to get in trouble if he doesn't. Things that are just like maybe seem more subjective, but if you're really looking closely, you should be able to figure out a way to define that. Then I think that if you're looking at those types of things, you could look at these players and say there's potential there to help you, but it's very short term. Or with one, and with the other, he's a much more of a long-term project who, if you don't see him getting it right away, Nikum Diche, within a year or two, you might be cutting bait fairly quick.
Yeah. And I played a lot next to Brandon Mebane at Cal, and I got a lot of exposure to various different forms of defensive tackles in the NFL, in college. Both of the guys inside of me are still playing in the NFL. Lorenzo Alexander and Brandon Mebane. And Mebane was an athletic guy who was very raw, but you could just see, good functional strength and power. And he wasn't like making plays all over the field in college. He just wasn't. And I don't know, do you think he's making plays all over the field for the Seahawks, but people really seem to like Brandon Mebane and see him as a major asset. They see one of the better defensive tackles. I don't know.
Who was the guy for the Falcons for a while? I think it was Robert Geathers, who was a defensive tackle who could just plow people into the backfield for a while, like really strong, could do the whole bulldozer, bull rush type of thing. But that was really the only thing about his game that he could do, you know. But he was like, or was Jumpy Geathers? Was it Jumpy Geathers, or am I thinking of the?
How far back are we going?
I don't like past 3 to 5 years was when he still was with the Falcons. Maybe it was 5 years ago.
I know Babineau was in there.
Babineau. It was Jonathan Babineau.
Okay.
Babineau. I wasn't thinking Gather. I was thinking of the wrong guy. Jumpy Gathers was a Washington Redskin.
And he was an undersized guy but he was really good at the better pass rush defensive tackles in the NFL.
Yeah, and he could bench press you. I mean, it was like that was what I remember thinking about was what he was able to do. He had strength. He could use his strength and leverage very well. But I just wondered about him. But well, again, we ended up with more questions than answers with this particular version of the RSP program.
I got more answers.
Okay.
And my answers are, I think you did too. You said them.
Yeah, it's true.
We know a lot more about these two guys than we did. And if somebody, oh man, dude, there's this guy for Ohio State. He's amazing. Adolphus Washington. And gets him at the 10th overall pick. I'm gonna go, wow. You know, what are you expecting from that? From that kind of value, you're just gonna get not a guy who's closer to the mean, you know, than someone who's special in any way that we've seen or noticed in our one game sample size.
Yeah, and with Nikem Diche, it's the same thing. People go, well, what do you think? He's so strong and he's so built, and you know, he's got quickness, and our answer would be, but he doesn't really understand the conceptual side of the game. He gets pushed back 3 to 5 yards on so many plays. He doesn't know how to take a side, and he's someone who doesn't really even know how to use his hands consistently in a way to have a plan beyond me bull rush, man in front of me, you know, me move the piano. I mean, that's kind of all that we're really seeing at this stage.
And the scary thing about that guy is because if that's the way he plays and he can't find more dynamic ways to utilize his skills, he will crash and burn in the NFL. He will. It's a guarantee that he will crash, because that just cannot hold up. Being that robotic, that predictable, and that undersized at the NFL level, you have to have more to your arsenal, or you just get swallowed. He will get swallowed completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's all predicated on whether or not he has that ability to grow as an overall football player, which is the big question. And that's the question that you're talking about, that we still have more questions than answers about. So
yeah, like that's what's nagging at me. That was exactly what was nagging at me. Is I'm thinking about it in the interview, like, what would I ask this guy? What would I want to do working? What do I want to see if he was working out? I would probably take some of these plays, and I would ask him to describe for me what Alabama was doing, what they were coached on, what they're supposed to do in those situations. What has he learned since from, certain keys or things he should read now that he's seen himself in hindsight? What are some things that he should have done? I would have wanted to know some of that. I would want to know whether, I would want to talk to his coaches first and some of his teammates and see about whether or not how they were coached on the defensive line, and then ask him questions to see if his answers were consistent with his teammates about how he was coached, and whether or not he was like saying, oh no, we were never shown this, we were never shown that, and then have two other guys going, oh yeah, they harped on this every week, all the time. And it was in a way where I wasn't asking those guys, was Robert asleep in these meetings? or was or was he goofing off? Was he on his phone, or was he doing stuff? Because I wouldn't want to put him on the spot, but I would ask his teammates, so what's going on here? What were you taught? What would they do? How they do it? And they'd tell me, the process, and then I'd ask him, and if he tells me it's a complete 180 from that process, I go, this guy's not serious yet. He's serious about making money right now in this room with me, but he's not serious about his craft. And that would be a big concern. I'd want to work him out, and I'd want to see how fluid he is in all these drills, but then I'd want to do some drills where he'd have to do some diagnosis, and he'd have to do some things that are not just like, rote, I've done this drill 8 million times type of stuff, things where he actually has to think a little bit or react a little bit in ways that if he doesn't look fluid and he continues to do some of that stuff, even after he says he's learned some things, I'd pass. And I think those are the things that I would try to set up for him on a full day visit.
That would be enlightening. I think that you would get a lot more understanding of what his potential is in that regard, and the things that we're questioning. I like that. Those are good things. Overall, like, without having that information and where we stand now, he's too risky. He's just too risky of a player to take a chance on. And I don't know. I've always been a guy who sees coaching turning players into great players. I see that as I'm on the low end of that. And I think where it matters the most is in schemes. Like, I could see where a coach like Chip Kelly can scheme a guy into taking advantage of what the scheme presents. But in terms of, like, I'm going to teach you how to be a great football player, that gets to a point where you either have it or you don't. And I don't know where he is on that. And it's hard to ever say where anyone is on that to a degree, or where it all stops for them. But that risk with Robert is way too great for anything. Yeah, 5th round, maybe start thinking about him. But if this guy's a 2nd round draft pick, and I'm not going to be surprised if he is. I don't like it. Don't like it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's going to be the great physical skill, and we can teach him. And we're both going to be looking at each other going, well, how far did that teaching get anybody? I mean, there's always the exception, but the rule tends to be that this guy, again, he might be tag teaming with Sean Oakman in 5 years. And they might be the WWF world champions, if they really apply themselves in the ring and they have the toughness to do it. They both definitely can hit, So, I mean, I hate to be disparaging like that, but I mean, again, it's about football's a tough business. It's a very competitive one, and you can be a great athlete and not have what's going on, upstairs for the game. You can be a smart guy, but not have what's going on upstairs, specifically for football, and have that combination of, that kind of intelligence for the game and that kind of feel and savvy. And so far, I mean, that's the question marks. So,
and none of those qualities were shining on tape for either of these prospects tonight. Yeah. And let me just say one thing about the concept of team building and talent evaluation in general. It's better to be cautious about a player and miss on him, and he turns out to be great. But the guys you actually pick, the guys you actually draft, you want to hit those as consistently as possible. And so if you miss a guy that you pick, that actually hurts you more than missing a guy that you stayed away from.
I think that's an absolutely terrific point. And you have to, I mean, I think there are more examples of playoff teams with a lot of solid players and not not one single superstar on a certain unit than there are teams that have a bunch of guys who are going to be out of the league in next year, but one superstar holding down the fort. You kind of have to have players that are spread across the line who are competent, at least competent. So I'm kind of there with you. Well, this was a great show. I mean, this was really a lot of fun, and Ryan and I are certainly going to do a lot more of these down the line. I may split this up a little bit, so if if you're seeing the end of this, where in the beginning where we're talking about team building and what we would do with players, I'm starting to think I might have that as a clip onto itself at some point. But for Ryan Riddle, I'm Matt Waldman. Thanks again for tuning in to the RSP Film Room, and we'll see you again next week.